My name is Natalie East, and I'm 38 years old. I work at a fashion-related company. My husband, Sean, who's the same age as me, and I both work, so we're a dual-income couple. We met as representatives handling transactions between our companies. Excuse me, Ms. East, could we exchange contact information? Huh? Oh, yes. It's better if we can keep in touch about work stuff, right?
Well, that too, but, Ms. East. Would you like to go out for dinner with me sometime?
Huh?
Oh. I'm sorry for being so forward. That's weird of me, isn't it?
Although I was surprised by the sudden invitation, I didn't find it creepy. In fact, I found his flustered, blushing face rather amusing, and I couldn't help but laugh.
Ahaha, sorry for laughing. Sure, let's go have dinner. Really? You mean it?
He eagerly closed the distance between us. I thought to myself that men these days are quite assertive. The last time I had a boyfriend was back in college. I still don't fully understand what Sean saw in me, but after his persistent pursuit, we started dating. We quickly met each other's parents and, after dating for a few years, we got married. We're coming up on our 10th anniversary. We have a beloved son between us. Our 8-year-old son, Andrew, is a curious boy who loves both studying and gaming. He's quite the talker, often surprising both me and my husband. He seems to have many friends and often finds himself at the center of his class. We have our occasional fights and disagreements, but that's just part of being different people. I was utterly convinced that nothing could shake the bond of our family. On a day off. My husband, who had the day off from work, had been at home since the morning. After eating lunch and lounging in the living room, he approached me with a determined look and said, "Hey, Natalie, can we talk for a sec?" Huh? I was taken aback by his unusually serious demeanor. He quietly waited for my response. Sure, what's up? When I asked him that, he slowly started to speak, and then he dropped a bombshell. Please.
I want a divorce. What?
I couldn't believe my ears. What did he just say? A divorce. He definitely said divorce. As I stared at him in shock, my husband seemed relieved, as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders, and said, I finally said it.
What? What do you mean?
As I stumbled over my words in confusion, my husband, gaining momentum, blurted out.
That's what I'm saying, I want us to get a divorce. Look, I've already prepared the divorce papers. All that's left for you is to agree with it.
Saying that, he slid a piece of paper across the table. It was indeed a divorce paper. This only added to my confusion.
Why are you suddenly talking about divorce? Explain yourself.
I almost shouted, pressing him for answers. Then, he clicked his tongue as if annoyed. It was rare for him to make such a gesture, and it froze me in my tracks. Explanation, huh?
If I explain it to you, will you agree to the divorce? Because I'll explain it as much as you want if that's the case. How can I know? How can you expect me to agree to a divorce without any explanation at all?
Well, you have a point. Look, Natalie, my girlfriend is pregnant.
So, I want to divorce you and then remarry her. What?
My husband then said, see, I explained it to you, now hurry up and submit the divorce papers. It took me a moment to digest what my husband had just said. What does he mean? Girlfriend. Who is he talking about? Wait, more importantly, pregnant.
What do you mean? Girlfriend? She's my girlfriend, you know. Girlfriend as in lover. Excuse me.
What is he? What has he been saying all this time? The man standing before me, whom I thought I knew as my husband, suddenly seemed like a complete stranger, and it terrified me. Lover. So, you mean, you've been having an affair? Affair. The word felt so unreal coming from my own mouth. Yet, my husband confirmed it.
Yeah, guess that's one way to put it. So, not a lover but a mistress, huh? Not a mistress, huh? This isn't a laughing matter. What on earth are you doing?
What do you mean what? You just said it.
I've been having an affair.
Seems like you had no clue, though. My husband smirked with a frivolity that I couldn't believe. Unbelievable. The fact that he had been having an affair all along, and now he wanted a divorce because his mistress was pregnant. My husband suddenly seemed like a vile creature to me, and I felt a shiver of disgust. To think I've spent over a decade with such a person. Perhaps noticing my look of contempt, my husband clicked his tongue again.
First off, the affair was your fault, okay? Don't get it twisted. What? After Andrew was born, you stopped paying any attention to me. So, I had to go out and take care of my needs elsewhere.
What? Are you serious? It's natural to focus less on your husband when you're busy taking care of a child who might die if you look away for even a second.
Of course, I'm serious. And you were so caught up in taking care of Andrew that you completely let yourself go as a woman. If you didn't want to be dumped, you should have tried a bit harder to be seen as a woman. In that respect, she's perfect, young, beautiful, and comes from a good family. The pregnancy was just the catalyst, but honestly, I've been wanting to leave you for her for over 8 years. I've been putting up with this family charade with you. So, it's not my fault.
Enough. Listening to him any longer would rot my ears. Deciding that, I agreed on the divorce. With a triumphant look, he arrogantly said, "Since I had to cheat because of you, don't expect any alimony or child support. And I'm taking the house, so take Andrew and get out as soon as possible." He then left the living room. Probably to submit the divorce papers. I headed to my room to pack my things. Not planning to follow his orders, but eager to leave this house as soon as possible. Just the thought of sharing the same air as my husband was unbearable. And to think he'd treat even his own son, Andrew, like he was in the way. To him, the only child that matters now is probably the one his mistress is carrying. What were these years I spent with him even for? The betrayal of my husband filled me with a sense of emptiness and resentment, and above all, a burning rage took over my entire being. I will never forgive him. All right. I gave my cheeks a light slap to psych myself up. And headed towards Andrew's room before going to my own. I had to share this new reality with my son, too. Hearing Andrew's cheerful response, I opened the door. And then...
Huh? Andrew? What are you doing?
Mom. I started packing too. Andrew had spread a travel bag on the floor, stuffing it with clothes, textbooks, and toys. I was dumbfounded. His quick actions, as if he had anticipated my move. And Andrew, grinning with his teeth showing. I had an epiphany.
Andrew, where did you hear it all from?
All of it? Maybe? I felt a headache coming on. To think that our ugly argument had been overheard by my child. It's truly shameful.
I went down to the living room to get some juice, and I hear Dad loudly demanding a divorce over and over. Despite having both you and me, he had an affair, which is obviously his own fault. Yet, he blames you and says all these terrible things. Seriously lame. Andrew. I don't want to be with him anymore. He doesn't care about taking care of me, does he? I'm going with you, Mom. I'm on your side.
Andrew's words made my eyes well up with tears. My emotions have been all over the place since earlier. But now, having Andrew with me is the happiest and most reassuring thing.
Look, he went to submit the divorce papers, right? We gotta hurry and get ready too. I want to leave the house before he comes back. Yeah, you're right. I'll start getting ready too. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you always, Mom. The words of gratitude made me break into a smile unwittingly. With my son by my side, I'm sure I'll be okay. That's what I thought. Then, in a rush, I packed our bags, called my parents, and explained the situation. My parents told us to come back home right away and welcomed us. Usually, when going out, I would leave a note. But not anymore. Andrew and I left the house without waiting for my husband, packed the car, and headed to my parents' house. My parents' house is about an hour's drive from here, non-stop. It's been since last Christmas to visit my parents. When I arrived home, my parents greeted me.
Welcome back, Natalie. And you too, Andy. Welcome. I heard from your mom. I can't believe Sane would do something so awful. Mom, Dad.
My parents hugged Andrew and me together.
From now on, talk to us about anything. We're both on your side. That's right. It's not good to keep everything to yourself. Though, I guess you didn't have much choice this time. Thank you both.
I almost cried, which isn't like me at all. My allies were right here. That night, we had dinner with my parents for the first time in a while. Despite the sudden visit, the table was filled with mine and Andrew's favorite dishes. We took a leisurely bath and went to bed in the futons laid out side by side. Spending the next day in the same way helped me recover a lot mentally and physically. Tomorrow is a regular weekday, and naturally, Andrew has school. We used to walk to school from our house, but from my parents' house, it's a bit of a drive. However, my parents said they'd be happy to drive him to school and pick him up, saying they have plenty of time. I decided to take them up on their offer. I called my company to explain the situation and took some time off to look into my husband's infidelity. He had unilaterally stated he wouldn't pay alimony or child support, but I'm not obliged to follow his words. I found out about it just 2 days ago. There's still time, but I want to settle everything while my anger is still boiling. I wanted to forget about him as soon as possible. To do that, I had to take action. I decided to hire a detective agency, as is typical in these situations. However, I wondered how much evidence they could gather now, but to my surprise, the investigation went smoothly. And then, I was astonished. The other woman in my husband's affair was someone I knew. I can't believe I never noticed it was so obvious until now. I felt dizzy with my own foolishness. But now, thanks to that, I could gather plenty of evidence of the affair. I decided to look at it positively. I also went back to the house we used to live in several times under the pretext of picking up some belongings I had left behind. Even though it had been less than a week since our divorce, the house was already in disarray. I guess Sane will have to deal with everything about this house now. Luckily, I didn't encounter anyone since I was cautious and visited during the day. I threw the keys into the mailbox and left. About several months later, while I was working from home at my parents' house, the doorbell rang.
Coming!
My mom, who was doing housework, went to check the intercom monitor.
Huh?
I heard my mom's surprised voice.
Mom? What's wrong?
Natalie, come look at this. Huh? Following my mom's instruction, I peeked into the monitor and my eyes widened. There, a familiar man and a woman were displayed. What is this? What's going on? I was confused, but my mom must have been even more bewildered. I bit my lip and braced myself, ready to confront them. Mom, I'll go.
Natalie, are you sure?
Yeah.
Just in case, stay in the living room, Mom.
Saying that, I headed to the front door. When I opened the door with a click, there they were, just like I saw through the monitor.
Hey, long time no see. Natalie.
An annoyingly cheerful voice. Everything from his smirking face to worn-out clothes irked me. I looked straight back at that face, my ex-husband, Sane.
What do you want, showing up at my parents' house out of the blue?
I retorted with a strong tone, and Sane seemed a bit surprised by my response.
Come on, what's with the cold shoulder? That's no way to treat your ex-husband. Ex-husband? You mean stranger, right? We have nothing to do with each other anymore, so don't act so familiar. It's annoying.
When I snapped back at Sane, still smirking, his face turned sour.
What's the matter? You put the house keys in the mailbox when I wasn't around, right? That means you came to the house, didn't you? You wanted to see me, right? What? What's that?
Such a gross misunderstanding.
I just went back to return the keys. I had no intention of seeing you at all.
That was half a lie and half true. In reality, I went to look for evidence that he had been cheating on me all along.
Seriously, you're not straightforward at all. It's because you're like this that I dumped you, you know? Is that all you came for? Then leave. It's nothing but a nuisance for you to show up at my parents' house.
As I tried to retreat inside, Sane hastily called out to stop me.
Wait a sec. Come on. Listen to me till the end. Look.
Sane pulled the arm of the woman who had been silently standing beside him. A woman, right? I couldn't see her face well through the monitor, and since I came out, she pulled her hat down even further, making it impossible to see her face. Her long, light brown hair spilled out from under the hat, and her clothes were loose-fitting. Come to think of it, she was pregnant, wasn't she? I think she's probably a woman. Sane raises his voice.
I got remarried. To the girlfriend I told you about. What? I thought I'd report it to you too. That's why I came to show my face.
No, it's nothing but a nuisance. Unaware of my dismay, Sane starts babbling on. Mostly about how wonderful this woman is.
She really is an amazing woman. Kind and gentle, with a nurturing spirit that always envelopes me. And she's incredibly beautiful. She was scouted to be a model in the past and could easily be on TV now, way more beautiful than any actress or model out there. Plus, she's smart. You know, right? The famous K University. She got in on her first try and has won beauty contests multiple times. With all that, she's perfect and her family background is prestigious too. Her dad's a CEO of a major company, and her mom works abroad. See? The word perfect was made for her, wasn't it? I'm really lucky to have married such a wonderful woman. Ah, if only we had met earlier.
Ah. Sane's bragging about his girlfriend is really the last thing I care about. And that last remark. If he had met her before me, he would have married her, not me? I remembered how aggressively Sane had pursued me, but now, I didn't even want to keep those memories. I wanted to forget them as soon as possible to free up memory space. I looked at the woman, who hadn't raised her face since earlier. Even though Sane kept praising her, she didn't utter a word. And I knew why. By the way, how old is she? Huh? Her age? She said she's turning 29 this year, right? Sane looked for agreement, but she only nodded slightly.
What, you thought you could one-up me with her age?
Too bad.
She's much younger than you.
So, she was having an affair with you since her college days?
Huh?
Well, if the affair started around the time Andrew was born, that's 8 years ago. 8 years ago, she would have been 21, right? Prime of her youth. If she's as perfect as you say, she could have had her pick of boyfriends. I can't see why she would devote her precious 20s to continue an affair with you, of all people. Were you just being used?
What? What did you say?
Sane was infuriated.
Jealousy is ugly, you know. And, for your information, we started dating 6 years ago. Right when you started ignoring me completely because you were all over Andrew. Andrew was too. I told you a million times he wouldn't die if you left him alone for a bit.
Oh, I remember you saying something like that. It was such a terrible thing to say that I didn't speak to him for a week. Then he came apologizing so profusely, almost kneeling. I thought maybe I was being childish and somewhat forgave him, but indeed, after that, he stopped pestering me so much. It wasn't that he had reflected on his behavior, he had started the affair.
Lisa!
Sane called out her name.
Say something. If someone as perfect as you tells her off, she'll surely reflect.
Reflect? The only things I need to reflect on are Sane's affair and the fact that I hadn't realized I was being looked down upon for so long. He's the one who should be reflecting, showing up like this to flaunt his affair partner. I stared at the woman called Lisa. Sane was pulling her arm, and she was shaking her head.
Hey, Sane, can we go now? Let's just go back.
What? But... I figured. Hearing Lisa's voice, I was certain. A smile involuntarily spread across my face. It's been a while, Mr. Hillary. So it really was you. Eh? When I heard the report from the detective agency, I couldn't believe it, but now. I took a step closer to Lisa. Immediately, she lifted her face in shock. Our eyes met, and seeing her face, I confirmed that she was indeed someone I knew.
Could it really be your Nathan?
Yes, that's right. I've gone back to my maiden name, Nathan Natalie, since my divorce from Sane. Lisa's eyes widened in astonishment, and I answered calmly. And Sane, left behind by this rapid development, stood confused and alone.
You two knew each other?
Right, we knew each other. Her last name is Hillary, right?
Yeah.
I pointed at Lisa. Lisa Hillary, she was my senior at work back in the day. In the office, you know.
Huh?
Sane looked dumbfounded. It seemed like he was having a hard time grasping the situation, so I decided to explain it to him, not without a hint of sarcasm. She was the first one assigned to guide me when I started working at my current job. Well, in reality, I learned everything from a different senior. This person only knew how to dump work on others. If you asked her something she didn't know, she'd just snap at you to figure it out yourself. Yet, if you didn't ask and proceeded with your work, she'd get mad saying, reporting, informing, and consulting is the basic of being a social worker. Back then, the whole department disliked you, didn't they, Ms. Hillary?
What? Hey, don't be rude to Lisa.
Who was the first one to be rude? You think I wouldn't feel anything when you show up flaunting your affair partner? Who's really lacking manners here?
This is different.
Well, it doesn't really matter to me anyway. It actually saved me the trouble. By the way, Ms. Hillary, you were 29? Strange, I thought the Ms. Hillary I knew was already 50 this year. Sane looked at Lisa in shock. Lisa, with a face boiling over with anger, shouted.
Hey! Don't just say whatever you want after listening to this. I'm still 42. And I wasn't disliked, okay? Those people at the workplace just couldn't appreciate my value.
From an angry face, Lisa's expression suddenly changed to one of regret. She's always been quick to anger. Flattery gets her carried away, well, she's easy to handle.
Sane. It's not like that. What I meant was a bit, you know.
Right, you were 42. But claiming to be 29 is a bit much. You've always been into looking younger, that's because of all the cosmetic surgeries you've had, right? There's probably not much left of your original face, huh?
Cosmetic surgery. Hey, wait a minute.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with cosmetic surgery. People are free to do as they please. But deceiving others with it, that's different, isn't it?
I never meant to deceive anyone. It was all a misunderstanding on their part.
Oops, that makes Sane the misunderstood partner. Sane, having realized this, was speechless. Speaking of which, your face has changed quite a bit since the last time I saw you. Without prior research, I might not have recognized you.
What do you mean, research?
Research is research. About your years-long affair.
What are you doing snooping around?
If you two can have an affair, then I can certainly do some investigating. I'm not the one to be lectured. Snapping back, Sane clenched his jaw and glared at me. But for now, ignore him. First, let's expose Lisa's lies. Ms. Hillary, weren't you struggling with a huge amount of debt? Still far from being paid off, right? Yet, you had money for cosmetic surgery. Amazing. After being fired from our company, I heard you caused quite a stir at your new job too. What kind of work are you doing now? Without an income,
how will you repay your debts? Debt, what?
Sane was startled again. That's right. She has debts. It was well known in the workplace. She had an affair with a higher-up and got caught. Plus, it turned out the money for her surgeries was conned from various men, leading her into debt. Even after being fired, you haven't reflected at all, causing the same troubles at your new job and getting fired again? You were quite the talk of the industry.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Be quiet! Just because I took your husband.
No, I really couldn't care less about him now, so please, go ahead, take him.
Hey, both of you, hey, Lisa. Is what Natalie's saying true?
It's true. And about graduating from K University? That was just a joke at parties, right? The names sound similar but are completely different universities, right? Sane, did you take that joke seriously?
And what was it again? A prestigious family background? Her dad was indeed a company president, but not of a big corporation, just a small local factory, right? And it closed around the same time she was fired, due to the recession, wasn't it? You! Why do you know so much?
That's because I did my homework. And your mom working abroad? Wasn't that after she divorced your dad because of his affair and moved overseas with a new partner, something you used to complain about when you were drunk?
That's...
Lisa trembled visibly. Sane looked at her with disbelief, realizing that what he had believed was all a facade. This is the face people make when they discover the truth about something they thought they knew. Maybe, when I was confronted with Sane's affair, I had the same look on my face. Sane, you said she was the perfect woman, but it turns out it's all lies, isn't it? Did you ever tell him the truth about anything? That's, well, because... Lisa, after a moment of panic, glared fiercely at Sane. This time, it was Sane's turn to be taken aback by her glare.
You're one to talk. He's a big liar too. He boasted about being wealthy, being on the elite track at a big company, and earning a high salary. He said he owned his home, but it turned out to be just a rental. And when we started living together, he said we had to split the rent. So stingy. That's...
And most of the rent, utilities, and everything else was paid by me. I always thought it was natural since I earned much more. Now, it's coming back to haunt me. In the end, both were lying to each other and got deceived by each other's lies.
Exposing it after getting married makes him the worse one. A fraud, that's what he is. A fraud. I have no reason to be accused like that. I had no idea you were like this. Never thought it was all lies.
The argument escalates. Could you take your argument elsewhere? I'm going to call the police, okay? They didn't seem to hear my warning, so I sighed. Feeling completely left out, I went back inside, locked the door, and then called the police on my smartphone, reporting that a man and woman were arguing in front of the house. My mom approached me, looking worried, and I smiled and told her, it's okay. From afar, the sound of a police siren could be heard. The two were given a stern warning. Later on.
Hey! What's this all about?
I received a call from Sane.
You said you wouldn't claim alimony and child support. What's with these documents then?
It seems he came to complain about receiving documents related to the claim for alimony and child support.
Huh? I never said I wouldn't claim. You just said you wouldn't pay, right? I've gathered enough evidence, so it's my right. These documents were prepared with my lawyer. If you really don't want to pay, shall we go to court? Oh, court!
Sane sounded frightened. Pathetic. Then, in a patched-up voice, he began to say,
Hey! I'm breaking up with Lisa. So, let's start over.
Wow, listening to this any longer and my ears might fall off. All future communications through my lawyer, please. Bye. While hearing Sane's screams, I hung up the phone. Later, I successfully received alimony and child support from Sane. My ex-in-laws apologized profusely when they learned about the situation. They were adamant about cutting ties with Sane. Eventually, Sane and Lisa got divorced. Sane couldn't afford his rent anymore and moved out of the house he had lived in, ending up in a shabby apartment, struggling to get by in debt. The whole ordeal seemed to have taken its toll on him, making him age rapidly and become fearful of even strangers. Lisa, also mired in debt and without money, became a homeless pregnant woman, barely getting through each day. I moved out of my parents' house and started living with my son. After explaining the situation at work, I received a lot of sympathy, and after discussing it, it was decided I would move to a distant branch. Being in a place where I could be ambushed at any moment would be dangerous, after all. Andrew had to change schools but is doing well in his new environment. I plan to bring my parents over to live with us soon, so we can all live together happily as a family.